Website downtime can cost businesses anywhere from hundreds to thousands of dollars per hour. Right now, yours might be down and you might not know it until it's too late. But if you're running ads, this actually gets even worse because not only are you sending traffic to pages that don't work, but you're also resetting campaign learnings and potentially hurting profitability for weeks, if not months down the line. So in the company I work at, we actually had a site-wide refresh that caused one of our pages to have a 404 error. And this was a really important landing page because this is one that we use for one of our search campaigns. And we did not find the issue was there until 3 days have passed. It was actually the C-suite that found it, not our marketing team, which was not a very good look on our end. So after that mess up, we had to implement a new SOP where we checked every landing page we sent paid traffic to 3 times a day. And yeah, that was definitely gonna be a pain. But again, it was something we had to do. So I decided to just build an AI agent that does all this and more. Today, I'm gonna show you how to monitor every single landing page from your ads, run page speed insights, and get instant alerts whenever anything falls below your thresholds. You'll catch these issues before anyone else does, especially your boss. Most Uptime monitors just ping your homepage, but this AI agent pulls all real-time active landing pages directly from your ad accounts and pushes them into Google's Page Speed Insights API. Let me show you exactly how to set this up. So this workflow triggers every hour, which means every single hour we're going to be checking every single landing page in our ad account that is active and making sure that it's working properly and there should be no issues. All right, so there's 3 main parts to this Uptime monitoring tool. First, we just need to pull all the landing page directly from the ad accounts. And then we want to check the initial status code just to see if the site is up in the first place. And if it is up, then we want to check and see how fast the site loads and also if there's any potential issues in the user experience that might happen for visitors. So let's dive right into it. This particular workflow just focuses on pulling landing pages from Google, but I'll show you the meta version as well in a second. So for Google, there's 4 main areas we want to pull landing pages from. We have the ad level URLs, the site link URLs, the landing page URLs, and also the expandable landing page URLs. So what I found is each one of these might have a slight variation of different pages, and we just want to get all the use cases we can. That way, we don't miss any pages that might go down that could affect performance. So the first one is just the ad level URLs. So this is a HTTP request node where the method is post. For URL, you're going to want to use this specific URL. And then here, this is the customer ID of the ad account from which you're going to be pulling the landing pages from. And then for authentication, check out my Google Ads API, set up video if you don't have this ready, but you're gonna want to plug that in. And then down in headers, you just wanna do content type application JSON. Developer token, that comes directly from your manager account. If you go down to admin, API center, and then developer token, that should be right there. And then login customer ID, that is your manager account customer ID. And then we're going to send a body JSON, which is just simply the ad final URLs from the last 7 days. Because, if the landing page has been active more than 7 days ago, then probably it's not as relevant because the campaign is turned off or the landing page has changed, etc. So that's what we are doing here. And then each one of those other HTTP request nodes, they have a similar structure, same exact URL. We're just pulling different types of JSON body queries. So here it's for site links. The next one is going to be for landing page view URLs. And then finally, we have the expandable landing page URLs. So that's what this is going to be. And always we're going in the past 7 days. Now, the next nodes, what they're doing is they're just extracting the URLs and also the dates at which they're pulled. So here it's simply, give me all the unique URLs that have been pulled from this query. So that's all this code is doing. And it's just slightly different for each one of these depending on what format it came in from the Google Ads API. So yeah, it's going to look all the same. So what we're trying to do here is to put them all in the same format. That way we could manipulate the data. Yeah, boy. Which sounds really wrong, but process the data and make sure we're getting the right landing pages for the next steps. So here, these merge nodes are actually keeping everything. So they're combining our URLs from the first HTTP request and the second HTTP request. And when you do keep everything in this exact format, what it does is it only keeps the unique variations of URLs. So if there's ever scenarios, which is very common, where like, for example, the main site, it's in both of the HTTP requests, this will prevent it from showing up twice. So we're basically doing this 3 times in a row. So each one of these merge nodes is exactly the same. It sucks because I wish you could just use one node to just merge them all together, but for now, this is the best workaround. So once we get to the very end, we have 19 items coming in from the last merge node, which means there's 19 unique URLs that we need to process and make sure that are working. All right, so I just showed you how I'm processing the Google landing pages. Now let me show you how I'm also processing the meta ad landing pages as well. So here, this is another workflow for another account, but just to show you how that would work, we're going to want to do HTTP requests again, but here we want to do a get method. And for the URL, it's going to be this exact URL with the ad account ID, and we're pulling ads by doing a /ads. The way the API calls work is slightly different from Google Ads to Meta Ads. In Meta Ads, you're going to want to send query parameters and use the fields below. I put in a bunch of different stuff here, which I will show you somewhere here. But the main thing we want is the creative ID. The reason being is you're only able to pull the actual landing pages directly from the creative ID. So all this HTTP request is doing is giving me all the different variations of creative IDs that we might have in an account. And then after I show you the rest of this node, I'll show you what we do with those creative IDs. So just have a limit of 100. We want effective status to be active. And then we have pagination set up, which basically scrolls through the different pages of the ads that we're going through. So basically what we're doing is we're taking that 100 limit that we had on the top and we're multiplying by the max pages, which is 20. So I'm going through 2,000 different ads that are being outputted into 2 items. Now, once that is done, what happens next is I'm splitting it out, which means I'm literally like parsing out the data array. And then once I have the 105 items, then I pull out the creative ID and just iterate over all of those 105 creative IDs. So that's what this is doing here. And now I'm looking for the ID and the object story spec. That object story spec doesn't have that landing page, which is the main goal of what we're trying to pull here. So same idea with pagination and limits. I'm setting the limit at 100 and I'm paginating through 20 pages. So up to 2,000 different IDs would be processed. And then after that, it's a very similar situation to before. We just want to extract the unique URLs and also the dates on which they are processed. Now to go back to my original workflow, you'll see that I also have a Google Sheets node here. So let's actually look into that and see what it's doing. So this is a read node, which means it's just pulling all the different data in that Google Sheets. So this is what it looks like now. It's pretty small, but I'll explain what it does shortly. So we want to make sure that we're not being spammy with our alerts, right? So if a site has a landing page that we're running ads to that needs to be, an alert, then we want to make sure that that alert isn't being sent every hour, because that's going to be really annoying. Like once you get the alert, like you get the message, right now, the way I have it set up, it will only bring in the alert again if a whole day passes and the landing page is still not responsive or it's still not servable. So what the next merge node does is it checks my Google Sheets where I'll be putting in landing pages as I create alerts for them. And it's just checking to make sure that there are no pages that we're sending alerts to too frequently. So that's why we're going to keep non-matches here as the output type. And we're using input 2 as the output data from, because that's the main landing pages that we're continuing to process through. So it's checking input 1, which is the Google Sheets. It's seeing, okay, are there any pages here that have the same URL and the same date, which we should probably skip for now. So that's what's happening here. And after this is processed, now we go to the fun stuff, which is looping over all these URLs. Because if you don't have this loop item node, then especially if you have a lot of different URLs, it might start giving you errors if you try to process too much too soon. So I have a batch size of 3, so it's gonna go in 3s and continue through the rest of the workflow. So first, what I have is a head method for another HTTP request. What head method does is it just gives a very quick response on what happens when that landing page is pinged, right? So if you look here, it gives me very basic data like date. There's a bunch of random stuff here, but what we're really looking for is status code. If the status code is 200, that means that the landing page is working and everything is great, at least for now, right? So that's what we're doing at every iteration of batches of 3. And then what the map website check does is it just simplifies all that data into the 5 core things that we're looking for, which is, again, we want to keep processing the URL so we know like which specific landing page we're working with at the time. We want to see the status code, and then the status just checks if the status code is healthy, and if it is, then it's healthy, right? And then error shows you what the problem is if the status code is not healthy. And then timestamp, we just want to keep pushing that forward because eventually that will be key when we are pushing in alerts. So we have a unique identifier for the URL. All right, so once the map website check is done, it's going to check to see if the status was healthy or not. Because if it is, then that's great. Let's continue with the rest of the checks. If it's not healthy, then we don't need to check if the page speed is good or if the elements are responsive, because that is like, we already have a bigger problem of the actual landing page not working. So we need to give the alert immediately. So what I have here is just a Gmail node, which will send the issue directly to the person that's running the account. And it will show, exactly what the errors are. If I pull this up a bit more, you'll see that what the URL is, the status code, the health status, and the error details. And it's also going to show timestamp when this check happened. So all the info you'll ever need to be able to start troubleshooting the issue. And once that is done, then we also just want to add that specific URL and that date on which is processed directly to Google Sheets. The reason this is showing up as red is because the current items in the workflow, they're not being pushed this route because there are no issues in this specific example. But when you're building this out, it's going to be helpful to actually go in and mess with the data a bit, literally edit, and then change the status to like not healthy. All right, this is going to pin this output, and then when I run the if node, it's going to push it towards the false statement. That way you can make sure that all your nodes and items within there are flowing correctly for both scenarios. So if we move on, you'll see that we're starting to work with the PageSpeed Insights API. So again, we want to loop over the items here. I'm doing batch size of 1 because PageSpeed Insights takes a really long time to process sometimes because they're doing many different types of analysis on the landing pages you put in. And then if we look at this PageSpeed Insights API and what's going on here, you're going to want to use this exact URL with the get method. And obviously I'll put this link up for you to see. As you can see here, we're going to need a key to access that API. So the way we do that is we go to Google Cloud Console. On the top here, just search for PageSpeed Insights. PageSpeed Insights. What am I typing? What the heck? All right. And you're just going to want to make sure that's toggled on. And once that is, you simply want to go to API and services, go to credentials, and then create a credential. You're going to want an API key, and then copy that key, and then edit API key, and then you want to set the scopes to just be Google PageSpeed Insights API. That way, it's more secure and clearly you're using this key just for that use case. So we're going to go down and restrict key. I also click websites and then select API and just search for that PageSpeed Insights API. There we go. So that should be good. And then click save, and then you should be all set. All right, so here's the rest of that HTTP request. We're gonna want another query parameter that's just URL, and then you wanna put in the URL which you are gonna be pushing through the API. And then you wanna do strategy desktop. And this is important for strategy. We wanna put desktop because we're gonna be evaluating desktop and mobile separately. And then category is just performance. And then we're also gonna put in the header and have that content type application JSON. And then for timeout, this is really key. Make sure this is around 300,000 because what happens is if this is too low or if you don't have timeout, if PageSpeed Insights API takes a bit longer to process, you might get an error here and you're gonna have to go in and basically troubleshoot things. But trust me, just put this in and it should work every time. So the main thing that you're gonna need is that score. So this tells you, basically the equivalent of this performance score here if you go to the actual site. And this is key because we're going to use this as a threshold to see when we want to put out alerts saying that, hey, the site's performance is not up to par. So go back here. So once you extract the important data, because as you can see, there's a lot of different stuff that is being pushed back from that API. So the next step here is to check what that score is and to set your threshold. So here's actually where you decide, what is an acceptable score for you. And note that you want to make that score a bit less aggressive because what PageSpeed Insight does is it checks your score in one of the worst case scenarios, right? So if someone is in a very remote place with really bad networks, what would their experience be like on that landing page? So, you're going to want to run a test a couple of times and just see, what score makes the most sense. Because you don't want the alerts to go out too frequently, but you do want them to come out when things are just looking a bit abnormal. So for us, it's 55. And here you could see that that score ended up being lower, which is good because now we could show you what the rest of the process looks like if things need to be alerted. So as you can see, we have another email node and it's showing exactly what's going wrong on what device and what the key metrics are that need to be evaluated. So this really gives really good context to send out to the end client or the devs to look into further. So for the mobile version, literally it's going to be the same exact nodes. It's just now when we push the PageSpeed Insights API, instead of desktop, we are now selecting mobile in the query parameter. So if you look here, the URL is the same, key is the same, strategy is mobile. That's the only change, and everything else processes the same exact way. And as you can see, I also have a different score here because mobile and desktop, they typically have pretty varied scores. So yeah, that is the whole setup here. And obviously you could customize it to meet more of your needs. But for me, this was a very comprehensive way to tackle any possible reasons why landing page that we're running ads to might not be working the way it should be. So today you learned how to automatically monitor all your landing page from active campaigns, run PageSpeed Insights on them, and get alerts as soon as anything goes wrong. Feel free to email me to get this workflow or ask me any questions that might come up. Once you get the credentials set up, it should take around 5 to 10 minutes to fully get this up and running. I run this on all my accounts now and I've never had a single negative surprise like this again. Now it's your turn to protect that ad spend. I'll see you in the next one.